On this episode of the Facility Playbook, I got to sit down with Andrew Dowis, the CEO of Pro Athlete, better known as JustGloves.com, JustBats.com, and JustPaddles.com. What's really cool about their facility is when you drive by, you'd have no idea what was inside. They mostly just ship bats and gloves that they sell online, and now pickleball paddles as well. So at the core, they're a facility shipping operation with an online store that's amazing. But what they've done is really, really cool inside their facility is create this amazing culture for their employees. I loved hearing about how they were able to offer a chef cooking food for their employees, haircuts in there, medical plans, all kinds of different options for their employees before COVID, how they navigated that through COVID, and how they've transformed that for their new employees in this day and age. Hope you enjoy this episode of the Facility Playbook with Andrew Dowis of Pro Athlete. Do you own or manage a facility? Well, you are in the right place. Welcome to the Facility Playbook. I'm Luke Wade, founder and CEO of Facility Ally, and this podcast is about helping facility managers and owners learn from pioneers and veterans in the industry who have built and managed successful sports facilities, entertainment venues, and clubs. Did you know that most of those facilities I just mentioned use between 4 and 6 different softwares to manage their facility? Revolutionize your facility with Facility Ally's all-in-one platform. Learn more at facilityally.com. And speaking of facilities, we're in an amazing facility today. I'm here with Andrew Dowis, CEO of Pro Athlete. Thanks so much for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for coming out.
I always say joining us, but we're here in your facility.
Yeah,
Thanks for having us in your home of homes. This place is absolutely amazing. So tell me a little bit about your background and what led you to Pro Athlete.
Yeah, I always wanted to be involved with sports. You know, like a lot of people, sports was like my whole childhood. And then had this kind of liking towards business and never really thought I could combine them both. And turns out I could here. When I stopped playing sports, how do you kind of fill that void, that competitive nature and stuff like that? I felt like business world really came the closest that I could find. So, I just kind of stumbled in. I started answering phones actually, and then I've just kind of worked my way through different positions, and very fortunate to have a great ownership group that, allows us to do that type of stuff. And so we're here now.
It's awesome. Yeah. And so was this your first real job?
No, I had some other jobs. Yeah, I had other jobs before, but this was probably the first real job. But yeah, I started answering phones and went into marketing, and over the course of a couple of years, I kind of found myself in every department, and here we are.
Who better to be CEO after you've been through every department, right?
I guess. I hope so.
So tell us a little bit about what Pro Athlete is and how did it start and what is it now?
Yeah, so Pro Athlete's actually been around since 1987. Brick and mortar sporting goods store down in Parkville. Wes and Judy Hedrick, they both had day jobs, but they wanted to be entrepreneurs, and they decided to start a Jiffy Lube franchise of all things. But before they did that, their son Scott, who's our owner and chairman, he was a really good high school athlete, and he was looking to get patches put on his letter jacket, and couldn't find any place in the Northland that had good service. They wouldn't answer the phone, stuff like that. So light bulb went off for them and said, well, let's not do a Jiffy Lube franchise. Let's do a sporting goods store. So they did that and just sold everything, shoulder pads, helmets, jerseys, bats, gloves, all those types of things. And then he got back involved after college, and he actually took the company online in 1999, right when the internet was a thing. So we've moved around a couple of times. This is the third different location. We've expanded here and stuff like that. And we're always kind of doing different projects to make the space work for us. But we just sell bats and gloves and now pickleball paddles all online now.
That's awesome. So most people probably don't know Pro Athlete. They know JustBats.com, JustGloves.com, JustPaddles.com.
Correct.
That's really, really cool. And so, and to your point, I think it's part of the success is you guys got on pretty early, like you said, in 1999 with the JustBats and JustGloves.com.
Yeah, I remember Scott saying I think we were the first people to offer free shipping. I was like, what? And he's like, no, I don't know of anyone else that offered free shipping. And of course now you have to.
Yeah.
But yeah, pioneer, being online, and we've had, I think, 8 to 10 different websites throughout the years. And then they've all just kind of turned into bats, gloves, and paddles. And we don't try to sell other things. That's kind of what sets us apart from some of our competitors. We don't do cleats and helmets and all that stuff anymore. We just laser focus on those 3 things.
I mean, it's in the name. It says just.
That's right.
It's
it'd be kind of weird to sell a bunch of other stuff, right?
That's right. So just for scale, maybe somebody who doesn't know Pro Athlete, or how big are you guys as far as like a retail side of things? Is that something like
so like without getting into like specific numbers and stuff, but our biggest competitors are Amazon and Dick's, so it's Amazon, Dick's, and us.
That's awesome.
And there's obviously other ones, but yeah, that's kind of the company that we're in. So
and I think one of my favorite things about, I've known you for years. I got to tour this facility years and years ago, and it really is a hidden gem. Like nobody knows this is here if you drive by. Right. But you guys have won so many awards around online shops and culture, and so what are some of those titles that maybe you're most proud about, and what does that mean to you, Pro Athlete?
Yeah, I think probably the best one, or the one we're most proud of, is probably the Small Business of the Year with the Kansas City Chamber. We were in the running for it a few times and came up short, and then finally got it in 2020 when the pandemic was going on. So all of that was virtual and everything, and I think it just showed us that we were built for tough times. All the core values and stuff that we have really got us through those times. I think the Newsweek recognition for our websites, like just having a good, well-built website, good recognition for our development team. We have a full dev team that builds our websites and stuff. We don't use Shopify or anything like that, just because they didn't have that back in '99. So that was like really good recognition. I think 3 straight years we've been in, the top online sporting goods category. And then healthiest, we've won some awards here in Kansas City, and then nationally, I think one year we were named the 3rd healthiest company in America by the Healthy Employers Organization. So that was pretty cool to see.
Being that we're in Kansas City, and I'm a huge fan of Kansas City, we've got to talk about the walls that are surrounding us. And then I know people come through here and tour all the time. So let's maybe talk about that for a second.
Yeah, so the wall pads, these are all from Kauffman Stadium. I think when the All-Star game came, they took them down, and we were able to utilize them here. Not a lot of people have a space big enough to be able to utilize this stuff. But yeah, there's banners from the World Series and the wild card game, and then all this whole padding from the stadium. So, and yeah, we've been lucky. We try to make it look, like a sports organization, because we have a lot of people that roll through here. Baseball players, if they're in town, might come and just check out the facility. So we would get those relationships built through like Marucci and Rawlings and Wilson. They might have a player that they sponsor and they want to check out the facility when they come in. But George Brett came in, one time. He used to come up about once a year and eat lunch.
Oh,
and we actually have a room upstairs kind of named after him. It's this big room. It's called the Signature Suite now. And it's just all whiteboard walls. One time they were in there having a meeting talking about marketing, and we actually sell Brett Brothers bats. We're the exclusive provider of those. And he was touring around his first time, and they just like walked into this room, and he's, oh, sorry, didn't mean to interrupt. And everyone's like, it's okay, you're George Brett. Like, what are you guys doing? He just gets right into it like he does. Just having a marketing meeting, Oh, marketing meeting, huh? Walks over, grabs a marker off the table, goes to the whiteboard, writes, sell more Brett shit. GB number 5, sets the marker down and walks out. And so ever since then, we framed it in and like clear coated over it. But he wanted us to sell more of his bats, and we renamed it. It was the project planning room. We renamed it the Signature Suite.
Oh, that's awesome.
And then one other time, we were doing a Take Your Kid to Work day, and kids love coming up here. They'll play dodgeball. They do not get a good glimpse of what real work is. It's like recess all day. But one of the things we did, we had the guy that cuts the hair for the Royals at the time. He was famous for doing the Hosmer haircut and stuff like that. We were like, let's get him up here and cut the kids' hair and stuff like that. Well, I don't remember exactly, but he got a call from Travis Kelce, who was headed to the airport or heading out of town or something. He cuts his hair too. And Travis wanted a haircut. It's like, well, I'm up at this place. And he asks, is it okay? It's like, yeah, it's okay if he comes up.
Please.
So, you blink and Travis Kelce's sitting in our spa getting his haircut, years ago. I was like, that's pretty cool to see nowadays.
That is awesome. Well, he's definitely exploded since then, for sure.
It's got to be the haircut, right?
Yeah, it's got to be.
Yeah.
That's so awesome.
Yeah.
And so you talked a little, obviously we talked a little bit about storefront, and you're a storefront only. And I know that you weren't here when the transition went from online, the sporting goods stores to online, but I'm sure that's come up many times to be like, we should open a store, we should do this. So maybe talk through some of that thought process of why you decided to stay only online and not really retail and in stores.
Sure. That's a great question. We get asked a lot. I think we think about it a lot too. But I think the laser focus that I talked about, just focusing on specific products, but then also just being really good at one thing and not trying to be okay at multiple things has served us pretty well. I don't know where we'd start if we opened a brick and mortar store, because we don't have people in here who know how to do that. And I don't want to just assume that we could pick up and do it. So I think we kind of steer away in that regard. We're really good online. You know, we know what levers to pull and stuff like that. We wouldn't really know where to start, I think, if we tried to open up a brick and mortar. So we just try to make a really fun place here to hang out instead of like having an actual storefront.
That makes sense. And so, you know, you mentioned pickleball paddles, kind of the new things, just bats, just gloves, and just paddles just came along a couple years ago, right? So maybe talk about how did that come up? How did you decide to do that?
Yeah, great timing, right? In the middle of a pandemic, we're like, hey, let's start a company, you know? But actually we kind of laugh at that, but I actually think that's what made it so special is, while everybody else was focused on other things, we were too, you know, trying to get through the times, but it's like, let's do something that probably doesn't seem like something we should do right now. And kind of have your back against the wall from the beginning. And I think that's kind of helped us get to where we are. But yeah, we saw it kind of, you know, at Chicken and Pickle. And, you know, I played back in high school on like a basketball court, you know, and kind of remembered the game. It was like, I kind of like that. So it was fun to kind of go and play and see the growth, and then just go, all right, we know we can sell other people's stuff online. We were debating whether to go that route with the Just Paddles or to just start our own like paddle brand or something like that, and debating back and forth. And we're like, hey, we know how to do this. Kind of like, why don't you open your own physical storefront? It's like, oh, we don't know how to do that, but we do know how to do this. Let's go do that. So have you found a big difference in between selling bats and gloves and paddles, or is it pretty much, did it fit right in line with what you were already doing? Yeah, a lot of it was very similar. We were very thankful for that, because so we didn't want to have to learn a whole new thing. But your customers and stuff are different. Obviously price points and stuff like that, even though paddles are getting to be pretty expensive too. But I think that's the biggest thing. Just, you know, the customers are different. In baseball, we're like trying to get the kid to influence their parents on what bat they want, but the parents are inevitably paying for it. In pickleball, we're usually going right to the person that's using the paddle. So
that's awesome. Yeah. And so do you work with, obviously I know you're selling a lot. Do you ever work with facilities to sell directly to facilities much?
Yeah. So we've tried that a little bit, but I think it kind of goes back to, we're not as good at that part because we've just never done it. You know, kind of the grassroots stuff, going to tournaments and trying to, you know, find facilities. We've tried it in baseball, we've tried it in pickleball, and we've just never really found our stride in it, but it's always something we're trying to do. I just kind of keep going back to, we're just way better at writing a good organic post or a blog post for organic and paid ad spend and stuff like that. We don't know as much how to like set up a cool booth at a trade show or something like that. And sometimes when you're like weighing, should we spend time trying to get good at that, or do we just turn a few dials over here with the online machine? Usually that wins out.
Yeah, one of the things I always say is the riches are in the niches. So the further you can niche down and find out what who your demographic is, it's easier to sell to them once you know who they are, right? If you're going for everybody, it's like, man, I got to market to everybody, right? Yeah. So that's really cool that you guys have been able to stick to that, because I've definitely not. I've tried it all, right? With Casey Crew, I was like, let's add tennis and let's add this and let's add that, and it was like, man, those didn't work, and we ended up chopping them all down. So
it's great to come easy for us, because like I'm that way too. Like I want to try everything, and then sometimes I have to be like re-centered. Everyone's like, come on, man, calm down. Keep focused. Okay.
That's me. I'm the idea guy. Like, let's do this. Everybody's like, wait a minute. You had like 3 ideas last week. Let's focus on those. So definitely can relate to that. Yeah. So just to reiterate, you were 100% individuals coming to your website and buying gloves and bats and paddles. That's amazing.
Yeah. Yep. So that's it. So Google, and, you know, I'm just really owning that search engine, stuff through social and our email and things like that. But yeah, that's where most of it comes.
That's awesome. Well, we're definitely going to talk a little bit about culture, because you guys just dominate that, and I love it. We're sitting, I know it looks like we're sitting in like a sports facility. Well, it's mostly storage of bats and gloves, and then office space, and just your guys' office is absolutely amazing for your employees. But I want to talk about maybe like for facilities, somebody who's watching this that's a manager and owner, you know, if they're looking to be like, hey, we're really doing well with our facility, we're looking to add something else that we can offer, you know, and they're looking to maybe have a storefront or something like that. Maybe some of the tips that you would give somebody looking to offer sports, right? Like if I'm Hy-Vee Arena and I want to start selling basketballs and other equipment like that, maybe some tips around what they should think about for an online store.
Yeah. So I think like kind of twofold, you know, we just sell other people's stuff, but then if you want to design your own stuff, you know, that's a whole nother deal. So I think first deciding, do you just want to sell other people's products, other brands, or do you want to design something of your own? And then, depending on which one of those you choose, there'd be different paths, but sticking to the just selling other people's products, like different pickleball brands and stuff like that. I think you got to have the right stuff. We're, I think, known because we have everything. And so new brands and stuff that come out, people hear buzz on social. Hopefully when they get to our website, we've got that brand, especially with pickleball. New stuff's popping up all the time. Baseball's more established. There's not a ton of new brands. Every day there's some new pickleball paddle brand or something like that. So have the good stuff, all the brands that people want. Just because you carry one paddle for a brand doesn't mean you need to carry everything necessarily. Because I think you can get yourself in trouble if you're, overextended on inventory. I think a lot of us learned during the pandemic, we were all trying to get our hands on every piece of inventory we could. And then a lot of companies now are, running out of space and they don't have enough room for inventory, and how much of that inventory is really good selling stuff and how much of it is, stuff that may be more. So I would say the right inventory is good. And then, as far as like placement and stuff in the facilities and stuff like that, not 100% sure, but we always just try to wow people, with whatever we do. So if we were going to set up some kind of a storefront in a facility, it would be eye catching. We would probably do some kind of interactive thing too, to get people in there. Batting cage is easy, but a way to hit the paddles and stuff like that. Cause we get a lot of people that want to do demos, and it's not like the easiest thing to do in an online model, but it's like, I'm not going to keep fighting it because the industry's saying like demos are common. So we got to figure out a way to do it or come up with some other way. So
that's awesome. Any tips on inventory, right? Like you mentioned, like, all right, any tips on like, all right, if this isn't selling or anything around inventory that you guys have learned? I know you have an amazing system, but
yeah, a lot of it's driven by years and years of, doing things right, doing things wrong. And so we call it sabermetrics on the bat side, but it's just these algorithms that kind of tell us what to do from what we've done for all these years.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So I couldn't even explain it all to you because I'm not that smart, but, when you have a lot of data and stuff like that over the years, it's easier, to be able to do that stuff. But I think it just goes back to, again, having the right inventory, and you're never going to be perfect on it. This brand that comes out that you think's the next big thing, they may not be, but we try to give everyone a fair shot because we don't want to miss out. And we want to make sure we're providing the best stuff out there for everybody and not leaving anybody out that might want something that we don't have. So,
awesome. Well, thank you for those tips. So let's talk a little bit about culture. You want to tell me about your culture? I'm sure you have a spiel that you give. So let's start there.
Yeah, gosh, where do you even start? Unique culture, I would say. But I think every company has their own unique culture in a way. It really revolves around our core values. I'm sure we'll talk about that a little bit more, but that's really what sets everything that we do. I remember during the pandemic where sales dropped off 95% right in the middle of our busy season. Literally we went from doing quite a bit per day to none, and what guided us through that, like how to manage through, was the core values. I remember thinking, gosh, we can't afford to do, we do $1,500 a year to every employee to donate to whatever charity they want. I'm like, we can't do that, and it's like, whoa, stop. Yes, you can. Like, that's what you do. And I remember saying, we're not only going to give back, we're going to give back more than we ever have, because there's companies and people out there that need more help than we do. And so I think the core values set that culture. The things you'll see around the facility and all that stuff are the things you probably read about in articles. That's the icing on the cake. That's the things we talk about and people wow about. But what really defines the culture are our core values. So.
That's awesome. Yeah. And I think we talked a little bit about that with Chuck Stollery of the U.S. Indoor, talked a lot about recruitment and training, and it really starts with, and I talked a little bit about replicating yourself, right? And it's like, you can't really find another you until you know what drives you, right? Your goals and your values. So, and it's funny, when I started my business, I didn't have values or any of that stuff. It took about 4 or 5 years before I defined it, but you're absolutely right. Once we defined it, it's the thing we go back to every time when we have questions on, should we do this? Should we do that? Or hiring, it's really important. If you don't align with these values, you're probably not the right person to work with us.
Well, and that's good to hear though too. You got your values later. Just for everyone, 1987 is when Pro Athlete was started. The core values were created in 2009.
Oh, wow.
So it's like, you don't have to have them right out of the gate. You probably don't know them right out of the gate, but every decision you make along the way kind of guides you towards those. And, I think that's what I said, we're sitting here. That's what defines every decision, like to build the pickleball court, you know, to hire someone, to fire someone, to partner with somebody. All those things we run through the core value process.
Yep. And it makes it real, like hiring and firing, it makes it really clear, right? Like firing specifically, like, hey, these are our core values. You're not living them, right? Yeah. So you're probably not a fit with our company.
That's right.
So yeah, and I think I read that you guys have a 10-step hiring process. So
yeah,
I'm sure values go into that, but can you talk a little bit about that process?
Yeah, the first step is the core values. So after you apply, if you kind of move on, we send a core value recorded video, and we just shoot you 12 questions and try to get to if these core values resonate with you. So I love that because we always say we hire for culture first and skills second. And, you know, we can figure out the skills. You obviously have to have some experience for certain roles, but I know over the years we've let go of a lot more people because of the core value, you know, culture mismatch than we have on skills and stuff like that. And it's just been one of those things that we've had to, you know, kind of refine. But yeah, I think 10 steps, it's not always perfect. I mean, we miss, you know, and if we added 10 more steps, we'd probably still miss. But I think like with hiring, I've learned a lot lately that, man, it's so costly to get it wrong. You're going to get it wrong, but it's so costly dollar wise, which is fine. But the hit to your culture is even more costly. We hired an HR person, I don't know, it's maybe been 10 years ago, which kind of prompted us to do the 10-step process. On paper, this person was, I mean, perfect. And within 2 weeks, both of us agreed that not a good fit. It wasn't just me saying, it's not really working out. Right. Coming to me like, I don't think I fit here. And it was like, it was so cool. It was like, how do we articulate that and make that known up front?
Yeah.
Instead of like somebody uprooting their lives and coming in here, because it didn't feel good for him. It didn't feel good for us. But we didn't have a good way at that time to showcase what our culture truly was on the front end.
Yep.
And that's what we focused on with the 10-step process. But I would rather take a long time to get somebody in and get it right, you know, than to rush it because you need a position filled. It's going to be way worse if you get the wrong person in that position.
100%. And I think it's so important, like you said, 10 steps, 20 steps, it doesn't really matter. The purpose is making sure that it's clearly communicated of what the purpose of working here is, what you can expect. Like setting expectations, in my opinion, is the most important thing across everything. And so now they know what to expect. So they're able to see once they're here, this isn't what I expected this, or this is what they told me and they were right. And that's actually not what I wanted. Right. And so they're able to come and tell you that. And we've had the same thing happen since we did a big hiring change, put a lot more steps in place, really created a hiring funnel, which is what most people don't think about. And that's what your 12 steps are, right? Is funneling down to find the perfect employee. But we had the same thing happen. It was a month in, the same thing. The person was like, I don't think we fit here. And we were having the same conversation. Like, we don't think that. And so it was perfect. And so I think it's important because we finally set the expectations of what our goals are, what your goals are going to be. And if you're not meeting them quickly, you're able to figure that out sooner than later, instead of spending a year of everyone being uncomfortable and not happy. And then, like, to your point, wasting a lot of that money that goes into it for sure. Yeah. So what do you, after you get through the values, you know, what are some of the couple other steps that you kind of look at?
Yeah. So we do like 2 or 3, I'm not 100% sure now, but 2 or 3 pre-recorded steps. A trick we learned, because I think it's really hard to get a group of people to hire somebody together all at the same time. So this pre-recorded thing, we have, like I said, we send out 12 questions, and then there's a next step where there are these things called how we play the game, and they're like a subset of the core values. We send that out to them, and they record themselves answering the question. So it simulates like a in-person live, but everybody that's there to hire doesn't have to all be in the same spot at once. So there's like 2 or 3 steps before we actually do a live like video call or something with the person. But we do culture index too, which has been pretty valuable. We don't use it like as a, you know, black and white thing. It's just gets us in the ballpark, like how this person's wired. That really changed my life, culture index. It made me look in the mirror about how I'm wired and how like being impatient and stuff like that can be viewed negatively to people, where I thought it was just me working harder, you know, and like trying to get things done. Well, some people think, you know, that's kind of intimidating. Like, okay, so a 2 a.m. email is not cool. And it's like, but I'm working, you know, and all these things. Culture index really helped us like do that. So we decided to do that on the front end for people before they come in. So we know this person's more introverted, they're more extroverted. you can handle the interview process better if you kind of know how they're wired.
Yeah.
So that's a big part of it too.
Totally agree. We started doing that as well.
Nice.
And it's amazing. Like, just like you said, how to communicate with them, right?
Yeah.
Like, this person does want to be communicated this way or doesn't. And to your point, I'm the same way with working at 2 a.m., things like that. And I've learned along the way. I had someone be like, I just can't respond to you on Sunday at 1, and I'm like, oh, I don't actually expect you to, like, I didn't think about that. And so now I tell people that, like, hey, I am not expecting you to work nights and weekends. I may get things off my plate, but I'm not expecting you to do that. You need to prioritize it accordingly, right? And so I think that was a big eye opener for me as well. But the culture index, I think, to your point, is, it helps you get you in the ballpark of just communication is so important. But also we take it in, like, all of our company has now taken it. And when we hire for a specific role, we now know what we're looking for that role, because that's what makes this role successful.
That's great.
And so I totally agree that it's a game changer. I can't remember if we use culture index or not, but I know you mentioned that before. And
there's a bunch of them out there. That's the one we started, but I think all of them kind of get to the same spot. But even things like, I kept handing people, these big, like, strategic things to do, and, like, they didn't always do them, or they would do other things first. I'm just like, if someone handed me that, I would be, like, so excited. I love, like, a blank sheet of paper, and, like, get to dream and stuff like that. But a lot of people, that terrifies them. Just like I wouldn't want to sit and just do tactical things all day, every day, and not get to dream and come up with all these crazy ideas.
Sure.
When you can understand that more, you can relate more. I mean, literally on this court, the culture index person that runs it for us, got everybody out here, every employee in the company at the time, and just started naming people. He goes, you go this way, you go this way, you go this way. And we blink, and the company, I don't know how many we had at the time, 60, 30 are over here, 30 are over here. And he goes, does anyone know how I split the group? I'm like, no. And he goes, introverts and extroverts. And you look and you're like, and that's called B in the culture index, like, it's social. And it's like, oh my gosh, that is right. But, oh wait, so you're an introvert? And then they're like, yeah, I really don't like to talk. And it's like, oh my gosh, I've been, like, tormenting you, talking to you at lunch for all these years. Like, just this big eye-opening experience that I'll never forget. And I think it just has helped me relate to people, and people relate to me, and it's been great.
Yeah, that's awesome. So what step do you actually meet them in person?
It's usually like 3 or 4.
Okay.
Well, it's actually probably in person, like, not on video. It's probably even later than that now, because we've incorporated a lot of that up front. So yeah, but it's kind of ever changing too. Especially everything's kind of after the pandemic altered stuff. I mean, which the facility is so different than it was, with not as many people coming in and stuff like that.
I think I may steal that group idea of the video thing, because right now ours goes through multiple steps. The last step is coming in person, and everyone in the kind of office that will be working with them sits in on the interview.
That's great.
So it's like everybody, and I realize that's a big bonus, not just for the person you're hiring, but your team. They now feel ownership in hiring that person. Like, when you bring somebody in, you're just like, welcome this new person. Everybody's like, who's that? Like, they're kind of like, I didn't really know this person was coming in, or whatever it may be. But in this scenario, it's like, now they helped hire them. And so now they want them to win and want to champion. So they're more willing to help them with other things. But to your point, I love the video idea though too, because not necessarily have to make everybody in person for that. So then I really like that idea. I might have to steal it.
Yeah, it saves a lot of time. Like, if you didn't get time to watch the interview in the day, you could do it at 2 a.m. if you want, and grade it, and then it's not bothering anybody or anything like that. So,
Yep. So I know you guys really value equity, diversity, and inclusion. So what are some of the ways you incorporate that?
Yeah, I think that's like an ongoing thing. I don't think we're anywhere near where we want to be in that. Something that we rolled out this last year was this thing called Flex Perks that years ago, we created all these perks over the years, like charity money and spa and player development for, like, education, and just all these different things, because we thought they were cool. I thought they were cool. The management team thought they were cool, but they didn't. It's not a one size fits all. Everybody's situation is different. Some people have kids, some people don't have kids. Some people want to work late at night, some people want to work early in the morning. And it felt like it kept getting harder and harder to do a one size fits all perk program. And this fits into kind of having a diverse set of offerings. We decided, you pick what perks you want. So now we fund everybody monthly, and through this software, I can't even think what it's called. But then they can use it for a gym membership if they want. They can use it to get haircuts. They can use it to DoorDash if they don't come into the building. Because during the pandemic, everybody was at home. And some of the reasons you might work here, hey, I get free food. Hey, I get, haircuts. I get all this stuff. I get a gym. And it's like, well, now we just stop that for people. No, let's get that back. So now if we're going to do this hybrid thing right, you can get all those perks that made you want to come work here, but you can get them wherever you want. Now it allows us to hire outside of Kansas City. We have someone who's in Milwaukee. He has the same perks that somebody. Cool. So that was a big thing, like trying not to just pick what I thought everybody would like. But then as far as like hiring, there's not a lot of diversity in baseball. And we've struggled with that on our hiring forever. We get a lot of former baseball players that want to work here and stuff like that. And while that's great, I don't want all of the same type of people. We want people from different backgrounds who have experienced different things, and that'll be the best combination. Just like in your culture index, you don't want all the same patterns. You want people that look different, think different, are from different places. And I think we've got a lot of work to do on that front, but what we've learned is we need to go to like the core of it, and we need more diversity in the candidate pool. It's not about just hiring different people. It's about receiving different applications and getting people aware of your company. Like you said, a lot of people don't even know us, but the ones that do are probably baseball players. Yep. So if we want to hit pickleball players and people from different areas of the country and stuff like that, we need to be more focused on getting them before they actually apply and stuff like that. And, I think that's been something we've focused on and stuff like that, but we've got a long way to go. I think it's something that, will never be done and stuff like that, but something that I think we're more focused on now than ever.
What are some of the ways you've gone about finding, getting people to apply from different areas?
Yeah, it's been hard, I'll say, because I think like trying to educate ourselves on some of the different programs around Kansas City. So, talking to people like you and other business owners and people that have used different job boards and things like that to try to, get a more diverse candidate pool. I think also working with like the Urban Youth Academy. That's a company or an organization that we have done a lot with in the past, but picking their brain, on how we can be more involved there. Some of the most impactful stuff that we've done since the pandemic was the work with the Negro Leagues Baseball Museum. So I think, reaching out to them when I knew people couldn't go into the museum and kind of being a part of their family now and stuff like that. There's a lot of great benefits that come. Kiana over there, we, pick her brain all the time on how to be better at different things. So I think those are a few of the things, but I just think we have so much more work to do. And it's with baseball being not super diverse, I think it's a really big undertaking that a lot of different organizations and people need to put focus on. I was talking to someone at Davidson Architect one time, and they said there are not a lot of female architects. So they created programs to try to get more females to get into that field. It's like, that's the level of detail I think we have to get to, is how do you get more diversity down at the youth sports level? Because then they're going to grow up loving the game, and then the same with pickleball and stuff like that. So I think that's where our head's at now. It's just a matter of executing on it.
Yeah, definitely a long-term thing, right? Yeah. It's not something that changes overnight.
Yeah, right.
That's awesome that you guys are thinking about that.
Yeah.
So I know you mentioned, and anybody listening was probably like, did he say haircuts and a spa? And yeah, you guys, you have so many cool things at this facility. And if you rip all those away, you're really a warehouse that you ship equipment, right? You ship different things. So were all those amenities here when you first started? And what made you, if not, what made them come to be, and how have you guys evaluated what you're adding and when you're adding?
Yeah. Not all of them were here when I started, but the foundation was there. So the cafeteria, but much smaller, just a little area with, we had a chef at the time, still do. But then we expanded it because we, wanted it to be awesome and have glove leather benches or booths and glove leather lights and a baseball bat shaped buffet table, like all those little things that are kind of typical pro athlete, all the details. I think it's just like, you look at the things that people do outside of here and you try to bring as many of them in here as you can. So when people are here, they can do those things. And when they go home, they can be with their families and not have to worry about getting a workout in or getting a haircut. It's like, whatever your family situation is, we want to enhance that. We don't want to take away from it. So when you're here, do those things. Don't do them on your family clock. is kind of the thought behind it. And then the other thing, like, it's just some of it's really fun. Like, it's really cool to be able to come down here and play pickleball and shoot baskets in the middle of the day and not have to go wait in line to get your haircuts. A lot of it's time saving too, and efficiency. You'll see like meetings on people's calendars and it's like, talking about SEO, talking about paid advertising, talking about inventory, getting a manicure. I mean, it's just like that. Like that's a day in the life of a pro athlete. And I think so many people are scared to do it, but it pays for itself. When we would do all the tours through the facility, which we used to do a ton, they'd always be like, hey, pull me to the side. How much does this really cost you? It's like, it doesn't cost, it pays. And when you start thinking that way, because then you get the best people, they're willing to work hard for you, they feel taken care of, it pays for itself.
Yep.
Giving food to everybody, each day, it seems like it would cost a ton. It really doesn't in the grand scheme of things. There's really not that many places to eat up here where we're located. We have a great chef and people feel taken care of. That's probably the number one perk when we were all in the office and everything is the food. See the bonding and the relationships that are formed over eating and stuff like that. And it's really cool to see.
Well, and to your point, I mean, most people don't take the breaks they should take during the day, right? So like people are just grinding and they just get burnt out and they just keep working on stuff. And it's like, you should get up every couple hours and walk around or stretch or do something. And so things like that, just give them the opportunity, right? Like I'm worked for 3 hours, I'm gonna go get a haircut. And mentally it's like, you're able to take a break and you come back refreshed, right? And so the other thing is like, they're not for lunch or dinner or whatever it may be where they're eating here, they're not having to drive 20 minutes somewhere, sit and wait to get it and come back. So they're probably eating lunch in 30 minutes, right? And getting back to it. So to your point, it's saving, but it's also, it's such a cool perk as an employee. Like, it's a win-win-win, which is the only way I look at things. And I just love that you guys have been doing that for so long. It's so cool.
Well, and I admire you where your office is. Like you've got all that stuff right there too. It's like, that was genius. You just have it all right there. You got it all.
Yeah. Luckily it worked out. I don't think we have a lap pool.
Okay.
But we do have the gym and that, but yeah, for me, that was definitely foresight. And when they were building, it was like, I want to be here because where else should we be? Right. Where else should a sports group and software? And so, yeah, it's definitely been really cool. And I love seeing my employees go out and shoot baskets or go walk on the track or, the gym. We have a barbershop there too, but yeah, I love it, man. I think it's so cool. And I did get to tour and sign. Are you still letting people sign?
Yep, it's up there. So we got a bunch of different signatures and stuff on the wall up in the contact center. So.
That's awesome. And maybe that just came to me. Let's talk about that software that you have like for customer service, because I think, and I don't know if you still have the same, but it was like on deck and like all the cool things about your customer service just kind of blew me away. And I know you built that in house, but maybe just go over that really quick because it's really cool.
Yeah. So I remember when we were kind of looking to take the contact center to the next level, it was all about data at that time. We didn't really have good data back like 2010. We didn't know how many calls we were getting and like call wait time. That just wasn't like a thing really back then, but we knew we needed that. So we started like looking and teamed up with a company called ServiceMark Telecom here in Kansas City. They're actually in our Hall of Fame for that project. And it just became like trying to make everything similar to a sports organization. So with that, it's a lot of scoreboards, you're in that world too. It's like people are competitive. So what do? Well, you throw up like a scoreboard that has all the data and then even like rankings for who's getting the best grades on their calls and stuff like that. And you start to elevate everybody's, output. But yeah, we would record like how many people were currently on the phones. And then you mentioned on deck, baseball puns galore in here, but that's how many people might be waiting and, live chats and all those different types of things. But getting that information out there for everybody to see helps educate the employees and they become better employees. Like the warehouse, they know how many orders are in queue. They know how many are this type of order, that type of order and stuff like that. So then they start to probably ask questions like, oh, that's cool. We did a lot more orders yesterday than today. It's like, well, yeah, Monday's our busiest day of the week. And then they're starting to get smarter and learn the business more just by looking up at a scoreboard. So, and it's just fun for everybody.
It's so cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's awesome. So back to benefits. What do you feel like for somebody, like me or, other companies who are like, man, really thinking about their culture and benefits? What do you think the first place they should start with is?
Yeah, gosh. I mean, the simple one, I think, is the food as a cool perk. People really appreciate that one, I think. And it's pretty easy to do. You don't have to have a chef like we do and a full kitchen and walk-in cooler and stuff like that. Just start with bringing food in once a week or ordering DoorDash or something once a week and then just see, how that works. We do pay for 100% of the employee and their family on health insurance. That's probably one of the biggest ones. Healthcare is expensive and stuff like that. For us, we've been doing it for so long, it's kind of just baked in there. Yes, it goes up and things like that, and it can be tough to continue to offer that, but we get a lot of feedback that everybody feels very taken care of because we offer that. The 401k thing, we do a pretty good match on that. That's been cool to see. There's a lot of people that are really into retirement, stuff and really looking at all that. So that's been really good. But I think you can take some of the stuff that we do or really talk to your employees about what's important to them, because like with our core values, those were built by the employees. Everybody came together and said, this is what we think these should be. Kind of like you talked about hiring. Let them be a part of that decision. You might think you know what they want. That goes back to the flex perks thing that I said. I thought I knew what they wanted for years. This taught me that I didn't. Now, you can't sacrifice the core values, I think, with the perks. I think you still have to try to align those. But outside of that, well, what do you care what that person does as long as they're fitting within your organization, the core values? Like I said, the childcare thing was one we really wanted to do forever, and we could never figure out how to make sense of it. Well, now they can take that stipend that we give them and use it for that.
That's awesome.
But the person who doesn't have kids is like, why are you offering a childcare thing? I can't use that. And it's like, let's not try to guess. So maybe long-winded, maybe my best advice on the perk front now is try not to do a one-size-fits-all thing. Try to find a way to be flexible and let everybody make their own perk package as best as you can. How you do that, I don't know, but there's ways out there to do it.
That's awesome. Yeah, I'm definitely going to have to ask you for more info on that flex perk because it sounds amazing. And that's where we're kind of at as a company. I have the 3 companies and we're trying to offer unlimited PTO. I have similar to you, I was like, oh, we got to get to 100% benefits. Got to, right? And then when we talk to the employees, a lot of them are younger, still on their parents, still on their significant others. And so it was like, that wasn't the number one thing to them. So we got to 50% and then it added 401k matching instead. So for me, it was like, man, I thought it was 100% benefits. I don't need that, but I just thought so to your point, asking your employees what they want, let them be involved. If you included them in the, selling them on the goals and the vision of the company, include them on the building it day to day too. So
well said.
I love that. So you mentioned 10 steps in hiring. You also have 12 core values. Are those the same values? Do you ever revisit those, or the same values that your employees helped you build 10 years ago or in 2000? I think you said 9.
Yeah. I think from 2009 to 2015, they were the same 11, I think. And then we added one in 15 and then added one in 2020. So we revisit them every year in our very scaled down version of like strategic planning. But that's really our strategic planning stuff, is talking about the core values and those types of things. So I think it's impossible to pick them and never look at them again because things change so rapidly. We actually even found one, there were 2 of them that were kind of similar in their end result. It was causing confusion because like, if you did this one, it might be counter to this one. And so we got rid of one, and added 2 more and all these different things. So I think it's healthy to look at them all the time, not put so much pressure to be like, this is how we've always been. You went from 87 to 2009 without even defining them. You can go a few years and change them, and stuff like that.
What was the one you added in 2020?
2020 was the one around diversity and inclusion and stuff like that. So,
okay. That's awesome. Yeah, we don't typically feel like our company's moving so quickly. We don't really think, hey, these are the values we're moving forward, right? And so I love the idea of revisiting. I was even trying to think of like how we would change them while you were talking, but most years, is it like a quick meeting of like revisiting or,
Yes. And I think what we do, we try with our perks and benefits, or at least in the past, try to have something that we do for the employees or that we do as a company that aligns with each core value. It's like embrace stewardship is one of them. So $1,500 a year to each employee to donate to whatever charity they want. Create a university setting. We give people money to go get educated, buy books, things like that. So you try to create a healthy work environment. We have the gym, we have the healthy food. You can kind of go down the line.
Oh, okay.
And so that's kind of those, again, it goes back to everything. The core values at the top, and it's just like this cascading. If you do it right, it literally, you see it in every step of everything that you do. Hiring, benefits, the warehouse, the contact center boards. I mean, everything you do, you see the core values hidden behind there.
I love that you're able to point to something physical for each value too. That's really cool, because a lot of ours, we talk in like, oh, we have community is one of our values. Well, this is part of it. It's not really a physical thing. And I love that you're able to point to that. So that's definitely a goal of mine.
But I bet just knowing a little bit about your business, going to one of your league games and seeing, that's community if I've ever seen it. Look at the friendships that have been formed and stuff, like, pretty cool.
Yeah. Well, thank you. Yeah. So if you had to start all over today, what do you think you'd do differently?
So much. Gosh, I wish I would have got to the flex perk idea sooner. With the pandemic and everything, we allowed people, because we are online, they could work from home pretty easily. And a lot of people didn't come back and they're still working from home. Everybody asked the same thing. Are you serious? With all these things, food? It's like, yeah, I'm not going to fight that. We have an amazing facility and, people can come up here and use it and stuff, but found that there's a lot of people that work better at home, and as long as we're hitting the numbers and the goals and we're following the core values, I'm not going to make people come back in. And that just told me that a lot of the things we had done in the past, there were probably people that did things that maybe they didn't want to do. They didn't want to go to a happy hour. It's like, but I want you to come. And it's like, all right, now you win, because it's more important for you to get what you want, than the company to be able to say they had some happy hour. So everyone can engage on whatever level they want. And so I wish I would have got to that sooner, and it wouldn't have taken something like the pandemic to for that to be fleshed out. But I still think it's been, such an amazing experience. And I think we'd still continue to do just the bats, gloves, and paddles and be very focused on that stuff. But yeah, I think the main thing is just having that realization sooner, not trying to do one size fits all for everything.
Sure. I'm going through a little bit of that right now of, some people working from home, some salespeople feel, making calls all day. The office is kind of distracting. And so I'm curious, and same thing around every get together we have as an office is typically around eating or drinking. Yeah. And we've had younger employees come on that's like, hey, I don't do those things. I'm trying to be healthy. I'm trying not to do this. So I've actually been thinking about this is how do you let people work from home and skip out on these happy hours and still create a culture where you can get people together?
Yeah. And I would love to hear everybody's takes. I don't think we've got it perfect yet. I think what we've kind of seen is they start to form bonds with their departments and stuff like that a little bit more. Maybe they have similar things they like, and we have a lot of different departments in here. We have developers and people that ship products and people that answer phones and marketing people and graphic designers and chefs and accountants, and so the likelihood of doing something that everybody likes and feels comfortable in is zero. I mean, there's going to be a developer that's like, I don't want to come to a big happy hour. It makes me uncomfortable. And I think for so long, I don't want to say I forced them, but it was like everybody came to those things. Yep. And now we've offered them and a lot of people haven't showed up. I think a lot of businesses would be mad. Hey, we're losing the culture. We're just adapting. It's just like adding core values along the way. We're learning what works for this current group of employees, and it'll change. There was probably a day where everybody will want to come back in the office. Sure. And we'll be ready if that happens, but I'm not preparing, for it yet. I'm going to let them kind of guide us to where we need to go. And right now, the guidance is we like the flexibility. I like being able to walk my dog in the middle of the day. Cool. I'm good with that. Your numbers, everything looks good. Walk your dog. Yep. Be happy, have fun, because you're going to be a better employee and a better teammate if you're doing that stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. And that kind of matches our freedom. One of our values is freedom. And obviously I was in the military, so that's part of my values, but the freedom to make your own schedule. And that's what we do that after, 3 months of being at the company, you basically earned your success, your freedom to make your own schedule, work from home. I don't care when you're in the office, as long as you're getting your job done and you're hitting goals and you're hitting your metrics, then hey, have the freedom to go take a haircut in the middle of the day, walk your dog. To me, that's, I think, the biggest thing. One, it was such eye-opening for me when I left the corporate world to be able to do whatever I wanted whenever I wanted to. And so I really wanted to give that to my employees too. And I think that's been a big part of our culture, people leaving the corporate world, coming back and being like, dude, just the freedom of doing what I want when I want, working late at night, working early in the morning is a huge thing.
I think kudos to you on that, because I think that's what we're known for amongst employees too, just that freedom. And I don't think a lot of businesses, they're scared to do that. Oh, they're going to take advantage. When we did unlimited PTO and did the opposite, which I didn't want. I didn't want people to work more, but it was it didn't, people weren't taking advantage of it. When you give people the freedom, they start to feel empowered.
Yep.
And they're like, wow, they really trust me. And we're not, looking at everybody's calendars and, hey, why are you walking your dog 5 times?
Yep.
Just look at the numbers. One of ours is focus on results, not work. I don't care what you're doing. Did you get there?
Yep.
I don't care how you got there, just that you got there. We're good. And we haven't really had any issues with any of that stuff. I mean, nobody's taken advantage and going on a 6-month vacation. But if that ever does happen and they're still hitting their numbers and stuff, that'd be an interesting one to figure out. But it's like, good for them.
Yep. Yep. And that's a new one we've added. The unlimited PTO is pretty new. And the conversations we've been having more around, like, when you have the right people, you actually have to force them to take PTO. Even though you have unlimited, it's like, hey, you haven't taken much vacation. Like, you need to take some time off. So that's the difference between having the right person and the wrong person, which comes down to the hiring process and the values. I mean, it's just so deep that people don't think about that, but I love that. So what do the next 3 years look like for Pro Athlete?
I think a big focus on pickleball, seeing where that goes. It's such a fluid industry right now with so many people coming in and leagues forming and buying each other and celebrities coming in. I think there's a lot of potential, a lot of excitement. We love seeing people out there playing and, stuff like that. So I think a big focus on that. We're also, kind of looking into the other side where developing a few of our products. We have the Routine Baseball brand that we acquired in 2019. It's an apparel company in baseball that it's a little more product development and stuff like that. But it doesn't like flow through the main channels of Pro Athlete. It's kind of more, I would call it kind of like an incubator type thing where we're over there trying some things. I had someone tell me, so you just want a place where you can take some swings. Like, appreciate the baseball pun, yes. But it's like, that's what that's for. Like, get over there and take some swings and fail, and learn. And then, wow, something actually worked. Let's bring it into the mothership. So kind of working on a little bit of that. You'll actually see it in our facility. We created an area in the middle. We actually looked at offices and co-working spaces downtown to put this group of individuals that are more creative and product development, marketing driven, because with bats, gloves, and paddles, we're just reselling other people's stuff. The level of creativity is just different. And, I had someone once tell me, I'm not going to drive all the way up to the airport. They were more of a creative type. I'm going to drive all the way up to the airport. Like, I want to be in the crossroads. Like, yeah, we do. We feel like there's more creativity and stuff down there. So we tried to look downtown. Didn't work out, so we just created it in this building. And, as you walk through, you'll see it, but it's got its own, I call it ecosystem, which is different. It's same core values, but they're shown differently. And it's stuff that we have never done before.
Awesome. Yeah, that's awesome. Well, if you're looking to get a glove, a bat, or a pickleball paddle, check out Just Bats, Just Gloves, or JustPaddles.com. If you're looking to revolutionize your facility with reservations, memberships, leagues, lessons, and more, check out FacilityAlly.com. Thank you so much for having us out today. Really appreciate it. We'll see you next time on the Facility Playbook.
Thanks for joining us on the Facility Playbook.